What's up, guys? My name's Brandon, and welcome back to Apple Weekly. In this episode, we're going to discuss the latest on iOS 17.3. We're going to talk Apple Vision Pro details that you need to know, why you might be receiving money from Apple soon, another crazy AirTag story, and more. And as always, if you want to stay updated with everything going on in the world of Apple, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, and also check out the Apple Den newsletter. All right, so let's start by talking about iOS 17.3. Now, the latest version is beta 3, and if you're wondering why I did not make a what's new video, it's because I was out in Vegas for CES, and plus I knew I'd be making this video a few days later anyways, and plus you didn't really miss much. There wasn't really anything major in that release. But before we talk about the changes in Beta 3, I do just want to briefly recap Beta 2 and the major issue that we saw with Beta 2 and kind of address the PTSD that some of you guys might have. So if you remember, a couple of weeks ago, we did get iOS 17.3 Beta 2, and it caused a boot loop for several people. I mean, several dozen people at least that reported it just to me. So this was a pretty widespread bug, and it's the first time, I believe, in iOS history, it's the first time I or anybody on X has ever seen a boot loop on iOS, whether that's a beta version or a final version, that was not able to be resolved with a forced restart. So it was a real true boot loop, kind of like the days of jailbroken iPhones. So something that was extremely rare. Again, I don't think it's ever happened, especially not on like a 0.3 Beta 2. So I think it's, kind of silly to think that this could happen again with Beta 3 or a future version. Now, is it possible? Yes, it's possible, but this was an extremely rare circumstance, and I don't think that you should go into future betas worrying, about something like this happening. However, I do just want to say, because I did see a lot of people say, when I posted that Beta 3 was released, a lot of people were scared to install that update because they thought they could get in a boot loop again. Now, the thing I always say is that you guys, if you're worried about an issue like this happening again, there's a very simple solution, and that is to just wait. Don't install the update right away. Let other people be the guinea pigs and try it right away. That way you can see if there's a major issue like a boot loop. So maybe wait an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours or more and see if there's any type of issues with it before you go ahead and install it on your device. And then the other solution is to just simply not install a beta on your main iPhone. Install a beta on a secondary device if you are able to do so, if you do have multiple devices. And if you do decide to install beta on your main device, you better make sure that you do have a backup going every single day so you don't lose any of your data. Anyways, that was long-winded, but let's go ahead and talk about iOS 17.3 Beta 3, which very well could be the final beta release before the RC. We'll talk about that in a moment. Now, I do want to address some of the changes in this update. So if we go into our settings and then go to General and then to Apple Care and Warranty, we have multiple changes in here. So I have a screenshot of Beta 2 here, and I'm going to compare that to Beta 3. So the first thing you'll notice is that it now says more devices instead of paired devices. And that's because the Apple Care and Warranty section now shows all of the devices on your Apple ID, not just the ones that have been connected to that specific phone that you're using. So you could see on every previous version of iOS, we had just the devices that were paired to that phone. But now we have all devices on that Apple ID. And the next thing you'll notice is that pretty much every glyph icon has been updated here. So if we take a look at the AirPods, for example, you can see down here we have the AirPods Pro 2nd generation. They look more like the AirPods Pro 2nd generation, whereas before there were these really bad gray glyph icons. Now also for the AirPods Max, you can see it's a more realistic glyph icon, and plus they are color coordinated now. So it shows that my AirPods Max are black or space gray, whereas before they showed as silver. And the Apple Watch Ultra icon looks different as well. Pretty much every icon looks a bit different here with 17.3 Beta 3 for the better. I think everything looks better, more realistic, and also they are color matched now. And also at the very bottom, you can see before it said coverage is shown for this iPhone and selected Bluetooth paired devices, but now it says coverage is shown for devices connected to your Apple ID and select Bluetooth paired devices. But aside from that, there was nothing else that I found new in 17.3 Beta 3. However, I did have a bug after installing 17.3 Beta 2, and I would assume that this is still there in 17.3 Beta 3. So you can see this has to do with the calendar. So when I went into the calendar here on Sunday, it kept showing that it was actually Monday. So I'm not sure if this had to do with the time change or what, but you could see here it's clearly on Sunday, but it's showing my calendar as Monday. No matter what date I click, when I click today, it still shows Monday. When I force close the application and reopen it back up, it shows Monday, even though it's currently Sunday. So there appears to be a bug in the calendar that is related to time zones and the current day that it is. And I did go ahead and report this to Apple in the feedback app. And then as far as the performance goes, with 17.3 beta 3, we scored a 2906 on the single core and a 7221 on the multi-core. If we compare that to the January 3rd date, which was beta 2, you can see we did score lower than those scores. However, it's not really a massive difference on either the single core or the multi-core. And so far, I've not really had any bugs or any issues with beta 3. And you'll also notice that the release notes say the exact same thing for beta 2 and beta 3. So they're pretty similar in terms of performance, and the same goes with battery life. Like if I pull my main phone over here that was on beta 3 since it was released, you can see that the last 24 hours don't really show much, but if we go to the last 10 days here, you can see that there's really not a difference at all. I mean, I've been pretty consistent with how I've been using my device there in terms of the activity and also the levels for battery life. So don't expect a major jump in battery life. This was an A at the end of the build number, which indicates it should be more stable in theory, both for performance and for battery life, but I haven't really seen a big difference going from beta 2 to beta 3. So anyways, let's move on to what to expect next from Apple. So as I just mentioned, iOS 17.3 beta 3 did have an A at the end of the build number, which indicates that we should be seeing an RC version next. So there is a very, very slim possibility that we see a beta 4, and I think the only reason for that is because beta 2 was such a botched release that there may be still something back there for Apple to fix. However, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that we will see an RC next week, the week of the 15th. However, the 15th itself is MLK Day, so you're not going to see anything at all on that Monday, but we could see that RC release on the 16th, which is a Tuesday, which is typically the day that Apple drops beta updates. And then as far as the final release goes for 17.3, we should see that on Monday, January 22nd, or the week of January 22nd, which is my original prediction back in mid to late December. I did predict that we were going to see it on the 22nd. However, there is a reality, there is a possibility where we do not see 17.3 until the following week or even the week after that because of Apple Vision Pro. Now, I do not think this is going to happen. I'm just throwing this out there as a theory just to, cover all the bases here. But my expectation is that we are going to see 17.3, the final release, on Monday, the 22nd. However, there could be a wrench thrown into things because of the Vision Pro, which is coming on February 2nd, which we're going to talk about here in a moment. So nonetheless, we should expect an RC next week, and we'll kind of see where we go from there. All right, so now let's move on to the latest Apple news. And let's start with the Apple Vision Pro, because this week, Apple made it official. They announced that the Apple Vision Pro will be available for purchase on February 2nd, with pre-orders starting on January 19th at 8 a.m. Eastern. So this is a big deal. And they did also push out an email that says that when you pre-order, you're going to need to scan your face via Face ID with an iPhone or iPad to determine the right size for the light seal and also for the headbands. And Apple says that customers with vision correction will be required to upload a valid, unexpired prescription from a US eye care professional after checkout. So it looks like you're going to have, a Face ID, iPhone or iPad for this scan to work. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to be available on the web, but from what Apple said, it looks like you have to have an iPhone or iPad, at least at first, to scan your face and get a proper fit for the Vision Pro. But anyways, as far as how difficult the Vision Pro is going to be at pre-order, Ming-Chi Kuo predicts that Apple will only produce up to 80,000 headsets for launch and says that a sellout is likely. So 80,000 units, no matter what the price of a product is for Apple, is so small. Like that is the smallest number probably ever predicted for any Apple product ever. So this is going to be very interesting with the pre-order process. But however, I do think that because you do have to have a specific size, you have to scan your face and things like that, that leads me to believe that we're not really going to see as many resellers as, maybe like an iPhone or really any other Apple product, because this is going to be so specific to each individual that it's not like a one size fits all type of deal. So I think that's a good thing for those worried about resellers, taking advantage and just gobbling up a lot of these Vision Pros to sell aftermarket on eBay, at inflated prices. Anyways, Apple did also say that the Vision Pro starts at 256 gigabytes of storage, and keep in mind they say starts at, so we could see potentially up to 1 terabyte of storage on the headset, but we don't know the pricing for that. It's going to be pretty egregious with the pricing for increased storage. But they did also say, or according to internal Xcode files, I should say, we will have 16 gigabytes of RAM with the Vision Pro. And also in this press release, Apple did say that there's going to be over 1 million apps at launch, including 250 Apple Arcade games. So there's going to be plenty to do on the Vision Pro on day one when you get it in your hands. And this is also, a lot of people said like there's no way Apple's going to have 1 million apps on day one. But I think what a lot of people fail to realize is that Apple has made it very simple to convert an iOS or iPadOS app over to Vision Pro. Like it doesn't take much work at all. So a lot of the developers, have been porting over their applications to work on Vision OS. So that's the reason Apple was able to get, 1 million applications on day one. And what's really cool is the new App Store as well. So this is the Vision Pro App Store. It looks really awesome. And this is where you can go to find and download applications in the proprietary Vision OS App Store. And the spatial FaceTime, aka Persona as Apple calls it, is going to be available at launch, but it will start as a beta. This is going to be where you FaceTime and it basically makes an augmented version of you. So it's not really you, but it looks very similar to you. And I think this is going to be one of the biggest features in the headset, period. So this is going to be very interesting to test, and it's good to know that it will be there on version 1.0. But something that's not going to be there in version 1.0 is the keyboard, and that's because Mark Gurman said that the Vision Pro Virtual Keyboard is a complete write-off, at least in 1.0. You have to poke each key one finger at a time like you did before you learned how to type. There is no magical in-air typing. You can also look at the character and pinch. You'll want a Bluetooth keyboard. So for me personally, I was always planning on using a Bluetooth keyboard anyways, but it is good to know for those trying to prepare for the Vision Pro that you'll probably want to have a keyboard dedicated just for that Vision Pro. And for those wondering, yes, I will be making content on the Apple Vision Pro here on the channel. I understand not a lot of people are going to be getting it. I understand that. I'm not going to overload you with content, but I know a lot of people are interested in the Vision Pro, so I will be getting that and reviewing it here on the channel. And then, did you receive $92 from Apple recently? Well, if you did, it's because Apple has begun sending out payments to iPhone users who were affected by the infamous battery gate ordeal back in 2017. So these $92 payments are part of Apple's $500 million settlement for purposely slowing down the performance of iPhones as their batteries got older. Now, if you were on social media anytime in the past week, there was really no way to miss what happened on the Alaska Airlines Flight 1282, where a door plug just blew out just minutes after takeoff. The whole window blew out and everybody was in a panic. You could not have missed this if you were on social media. But what's interesting here is that ever since this, issue happened on this flight, ever since that window blew out, investigators were searching for the missing door plug and anything else from the plane. And a user on X happened to find an iPhone on the side of the road, which was still in airplane mode. It was unlocked. It had an email opened up showing baggage claim for that exact Alaska Airlines flight, and it still had 44% battery remaining. So this iPhone survived a 16,000 plus foot drop, and you can't even see a blemish on it. That is amazing. Now, it did have a screen protector, as you can see, and a case on it, but still, that is super impressive for the iPhone to survive that long. And what was interesting is you could see the USB-C cable is kind of like broken off and stuck inside of the charging port, which is pretty interesting. And then, just as tradition here on the Apple Weekly series, we have to talk about another crazy AirTag story. And this time it was a Florida man yet again. So 2 weeks in a row where we're talking about a Florida man. But anyways, this guy had a home renovation business and he left his trailer locked at a job site overnight, as he typically does. But this time, he woke up the next day and his $20,000 trailer was gone. So he called the Orlando police, but heard nothing back for weeks. So he just assumed that he would never find it. So keep in mind, this man had an AirTag on the trailer. He said he had an AirTag on the trailer and he placed it there as bait for thieves if this trailer was ever stolen. And the reason he did that is because he had another magnetic tracker hidden on the trailer. So his logic was that the thieves wouldn't search for a second tracker if they found the one tracker, the AirTag, which I agree is a good strategy, and it's actually something I shared here on the channel like months ago, that is something that you should do as well. But Anyways, the problem is the hidden tracker died. The magnetic one, the non-AirTag tracker, died. But thankfully for him, the thieves never found the AirTag that was hidden in plain sight. And I guess this guy just didn't even think to check the Find My app because, he bought a new trailer a month later. So anyways, as he was re-adding his trackers to the new trailer that he just bought, he noticed a ping from the AirTag that was on the stolen trailer. So he decided to do his own investigation and drove out there to where the ping was on that stolen trailer. And sure enough, he found a trailer that looked identical to his. But when he called police, they said they can't do anything without a search warrant, and there wasn't enough probable cause to search the trailer. But days later, deputies found the trailer and several other stolen vehicles on the property, so that was enough probable cause for a search warrant, and they were able to return the trailer to the owner. So this goes without saying, but if you have something stolen, just check the Find My app. I would assume that this guy is pretty old school and is not really great with technology, and that's why he didn't check the Find My app for a month, even though he had the AirTag on that trailer. So kind of weird, but it is just another reminder to just check the Find My app all the time if you lost a device or even think that you lost a device. Now, speaking of AirTags, the AirPods second generation are now expected in 2025 and not 2024, like some speculated last year. Now, this is according to Bloomberg, who said that they're in, quote, no rush to release AirTags 2 since the first generation worked well, and plus the main issue for Apple is that the first gen AirTag was simply overproduced. So apparently Apple retail stores and warehouses are like chock full of AirTags up to their heads. So Apple's gonna have to sell a lot more AirTags, before they can even consider releasing the AirTags second generation. So it looks like 2025 it is. Oh, and one other tidbit for the AirTags, Apple now allows you to store up to 32 items in the Find My application, whereas before it was 16. So apparently Apple did this in iOS 16, but it went really under the radar until just recently this week, where they updated their support document to reflect the fact that you can now have up to 32 items in Find My, not just 16 like we had previously, I guess, in iOS 15. So anyways, guys, there you have it. That is the latest in the world of Apple, including iOS 17.3, Apple Vision Pro, and more. So stay tuned for more videos coming next week. I did take a little break, like I said at the beginning of the video, because I was out in Vegas at CES, but videos will be coming on a weekly basis again starting next week. So you have that to look forward to. But if you guys enjoyed this episode, I would appreciate if you give it a thumbs up. Also be sure to subscribe for more Apple coverage just like this. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.